On the 9th of July, the European Space Agency launched its long-awaited Ariane 6 rocket from Europe's Spaceport in French Guiana, an overseas department of France in South America. The launch was hailed as good news for Europe's space ambitions.
You can't see all the separations.
The Ariane 6 rocket is an upgraded version of previous Ariane launchers, continuing a program set up by a group of European nations in the 70s to give Europe independent access to space. Like the United States and other global powers such as Russia, European nations have been in the space race too, contributing to scientific missions, the creation of global navigation systems, and communication systems. Many of these initiatives were developed together with the European Union. But in recent years, Europe has lagged behind in terms of space programs and autonomy, especially compared to technological revolutions introduced by private space companies like Elon Musk's SpaceX in the United States. While Europe's Ariane 6 had its first flight on the 9th of July this year, its launch was originally expected 4 years ago, in 2020. But there is more to Europe's space efforts than shooting rockets into the sky. Let's have a look at what Europe and the EU do to compete in the global space race.
4, 3, 2, 1, top! Allumage 2 EUSPA, décollage!
The Ariane program is a flagship program of the European Space Agency, an intergovernmental organization created in 1975. ESA consists of 22 European countries. Alongside its Ariane rocket program, ESA has made significant contributions to space exploration and scientific research. The agency has successfully executed satellite missions to the Moon and distant celestial bodies, including the pioneering Rosetta mission, which reached a comet about 500 million kilometers from Earth. ESA has also played a crucial role in numerous international projects with other space agencies, such as the construction and operations of the International Space Station. ESA also operates the European Astronaut Center. ESA is not an agency of the European Union. It is a separate organization that includes non-EU countries such as the United Kingdom, Switzerland, and Norway. The EU has its own space agency, the European Union Agency for the Space Programme, which works closely with ESA. Most of ESA's funding comes from the EU. The two organizations are intertwined on different levels of cooperation, but while ESA provides infrastructure development and technical expertise, for example by launching EU satellites into space using Ariane rockets, the EU Agency for the Space Programme has a more operational role and promotes the commercialization of the EU space services. The European Union has its own space program, which primarily focuses on Earth observation, navigation, and communication programs, supported and implemented by ESA. A main component of the EU space program is Galileo. It serves as Europe's counterpart to the US-based GPS, or Global Positioning System, providing a satellite-based navigation system. With 26 satellites in orbit, Galileo is more accurate than GPS. Globally, more than 2 billion people use the Galileo system, and more than 3.9 billion Galileo-enabled smartphones have been sold worldwide. A second major component is Copernicus, the EU's Earth observation program. Through a constellation of satellites, Copernicus collects data on various aspects of the Earth's surface and atmosphere, used for land and atmospheric monitoring, climate modeling and forecasting, to respond to natural disasters, and much more. The EU space program also includes initiatives to improve navigation for aviation and maritime sectors, systems for space traffic management to prevent satellite collisions, and satellite communication services used by governments. Thierry Breton, EU Commissioner for Internal Market, said that space is anchored into EU policy, and also called for a commercialization of space, with Europe turning into a hub for space entrepreneurship. In May, EU member states highlighted the growing importance of space in many areas of the EU's socio-economic challenges and policies, like the Green Deal, and that a strong European space sector is fundamental for European strategic autonomy, security, and defense.
Liftoff of L-87. Go Falcon, go, go!
However, the space sector has begun to change in the last decade, and international events have begun to test Europe and the EU's resilience in space. ESA and the EU have invested in the Ariane 6 during the 2010s, with the idea of creating an updated and less expensive version of the Ariane 5. But in those years, a revolution was already rocking the market. Elon Musk's SpaceX had introduced the idea of reusable rockets, which are even more affordable than expendable rockets like the Ariane 6. Lack of funding and the Russian invasion of Ukraine in 2022, a geopolitical shock, slowed down the development of the program even more. ESA has a budget of 7.8 billion euros for 2024, which is about 1/3 of the US space agency NASA's budget and about 2/3 of the budget of the China National Space Administration, the Chinese space agency. Lack of competitiveness could result in more delays, even less funds, and more operational risks, potentially affecting the EU's strategic autonomy and security in space operations. Meanwhile, countries like Russia, China, and India are pursuing ambitious space programs, including military space programs. The launch of the Ariane 6 rocket brought European space ambitions forward significantly, but the EU and ESA may need to do more to bolster Europe's space capabilities. This at a time when the sector is becoming increasingly competitive and crucial for the continent's security. Follow the European Newsroom to stay up to date with the latest news and developments from Europe.